If you have a $350,000 portfolio and you're thinking about retirement in the next couple of years, here are 3 retirement killers that you need to keep top of mind. And no, it's not just about spending too much money or panicking going into retirement. It's much more. So let's dive into it. The first retirement killer: overspending in the first 5 years of retirement. The first 5 years of retirement for anyone is a very fragile period in life. Markets are unpredictable, and you're going from this growth and accumulation phase of life during your working years into what we call the distribution phase of life, where no longer the goal is growth. Rather, it's preserving what you've earned and collecting income along the way. This transition and period in life should feel freeing. But like anything else, there's a variety of things that we need to strategically plan for. If we aren't careful, living this finally free life could lead us into a place where our spending starts to compound. And as our spending starts to compound, it's like the reverse of compound interest. You start to run out of money. You run the risk of running out of money. So to help you not run into this retirement killer, there's a couple things that you can start doing today. The first, and probably the most important for any retirement plan, for any retiree, is creating a budget. Now, I know that sounds simple, but the catch is it's often the most overlooked thing. Why? Because it is simple. Create a detailed budget where you clearly identify and outline all of your income and expenses. The second thing, you want to make sure that you track your spending, not year to year, but month to month. Be meticulous here, because ultimately, in order to stay on budget, you must track that spending. The third thing, we need to reprioritize our expenses. The easiest way to do this is to bucket expenses. Now, what do I mean by this? Bucket expenses into your needs and into your wants. Your needs are things like food, shelter, insurance, etc. Your wants are things like dining out, entertainment, buying a new car, things like that. Now, for those wants, we need to make sure that we set a separate budget for this discretionary spend. Maybe you get an extra couple $100 a month to go out and just spend that money on whatever it is that you want to buy. But the catch is you only get that set amount of money, no more. And finally, we need to make sure that your nest egg is managed in such a way that it aligns with these things that you want to do, that it aligns with the income that you need it to produce, with your expenses and the goals that you want to shoot for in retirement. Let's be clear here. I'm not saying that you can't live a free life in retirement. In fact, we are all for that. That's what we think retirement is for. What I'm saying here is that you need to plan for this stage of life with purpose so that you can have clarity in your retirement strategy. The second retirement killer is ignoring taxes in retirement. Poor tax planning can drain that nest egg that you have worked so hard to build over your working years. The reality is, tax planning and taxes don't end when you stop working. There is a massive opportunity to implement a tax plan in retirement that aligns with your overall strategy, that puts more of your hard-earned money back into your pocket. So let's take a look at this. In retirement, you're theoretically going to have investments in various places. That is, maybe in a taxable account, a tax-deferred account, and a tax-free account, all of which have different tax treatments. So let's quickly look at the taxable account, for example. If you are drawing from this taxable account, you are going to incur either 1, capital gains tax, or 2, ordinary income tax, depending on the investments in this account. If you're drawing from a tax-deferred account, upon the distribution, this is taxed as ordinary income. And if you're pulling from a Roth IRA, a tax-free account, these distributions will be tax-free to you, assuming that you have met the 5-year rule and the qualified distribution conditions. So let's expand a little bit more here. As we take distributions out of our accounts, especially our tax deferred accounts, odds are we're going to end up with a tax liability. And not just a tax liability, but an increase in income that could actually, if we aren't careful, trigger, for example, higher Medicare premiums. So see, the catch here is, yeah, we need to be mindful of how this impacts our situation in retirement. But we also need to be mindful of the things that maybe aren't top of mind, like Medicare premiums. Having a tax plan that not only focuses on our asset allocation, but also focuses on our tax adjusted ending assets in retirement is crucial for a tax efficient retirement. This often includes entertaining strategies like Roth conversions, tax loss harvesting, tax gain harvesting, or qualified charitable distributions, assuming that you are able to do those. So now let's get into the third retirement killer, planning your retirement based on averages. Financial modeling is an excellent way to establish a baseline for your retirement picture. Financial models often assume a 6 to 7% hypothetical annual rate of return in retirement with a hypothetical 2.5% inflation rate over a 30-year retirement. But here's the problem with that. Is this actually your plan? Are these industry averages suitable for you and your situation? Or is this general rule of thumb maybe way too optimistic and way too growth focused for you? Or on the flip side, is it too conservative for your situation? See, the problem here is using financial models as personal advice does not take into consideration what you have going on in retirement. Real retirement planning means that you plan for a range of outcomes, not just an average. And those range of outcomes are derived based on your situation. You could call this a stress test, if you will. What happens if we retire and the market immediately drops 5%? What do we do? How do we handle that? Where does our income come from? And can we afford for that to happen in retirement? What if the market drops 10%? What do we do? How have we planned for that? Is a 30-year plan maybe based on our family tree a way too generous time frame for retirement? Or is it not near enough? Do people tend to live longer lives? What does your family tree look like? Are you actually invested in a way that reflects a 6 to 7% hypothetical rate of return? Is 6 to 7%, like we said, way too conservative for your investments? Or is it way too growth focused and optimistic for what you have going on? See, real retirement planning considers all of this, not just the best case scenarios for your individual retirement. Now, guys, it is important to note here that these are just 3 of the many retirement killers that you need to be mindful of. 2, notably, that come to mind in addition to these 3 that I'm not going to highlight on this video, I'll just mention briefly, is inflation risk and not accounting for healthcare. These are things that we need to think about, that we need to plan for, that we need to implement into our plan. Guys, if you enjoyed this video and if you would like to create a retirement plan so that you too can avoid these 3 retirement killers, I invite you to click the link in the description. We'll see you there. Thank you so much.